Okay, and welcome back, students who are taking Math for Business and Finance and Math Applications. We're working on the theory videos for Chapter 16, how to read, analyze, and interpret financial reports, and this is the 6th video, and we're picking right up where we left off with the horizontal analysis. All right. So we're doing the comparative analysis, and in the last video we did the vertical analysis, and now we're going to look at the same information. I'm sorry, we're going to look at, not the same information, it is different information, but we're going to look at it in a horizontal perspective, all right? And again, it is a financial statement, so we have our heading here, okay? And it's being presented in a vertical, our balance sheet is being presented in a vertical format, assets, then liabilities, and vertical owner's equity underneath. Notice that we have, our years, 2013 and 2014, but with the horizontal analysis, notice that we have our increase or decrease, the amount, and the percentage, okay? And what we're doing is we're comparing one year with the other, okay? In the comparative balance sheet up here, all right, we basically took the information and used the information within that particular year as our base, okay? In other words, we were using the 85,000 for the year 2014, and we're using 81,000 for the year 2013. Both were considered 100%, and we created our percentages off of that same information that was dependent upon the year we were looking at. But now with our horizontal analysis, what we're looking at is we're looking at the difference between the two, okay? Where if the easiest way to look at this is to say, okay, here I'm at 2000, I was at 2014, all right? And I had $4,000 for cash, okay? In 2014, now I have $6,000 in cash. Well, what happened? Well, that was an increase of $2,000, okay? Now, to get the percentage, we're using 2013 as the basis. So if I take 2,000 and I divide it by the 4,000, okay, that will give me a 50% increase, okay? And as you can see down here in the bottom, it says the percentages are not summed horizontally in, are not summed vertically in horizontal analysis, meaning when we're looking up here at the vertical analysis, okay, these, come on pen, there it is, my figures are being summed. In other words, I add 25, 9, 10, and 6, and I'm going to end up with this 50.59 because it's individual to this particular year. So I'm able to add up those figures, sum them up as I go down the page where appropriate. I mean, meaning my total assets, if you notice, let me erase a little bit so it's clear. I have a total current asset of 5059, okay? And I have a total property, plant, and equipment of 4941. When you add those two up, that equals 100%, okay? And the same as, so this here adds up to this 2128, and 21 and 28 equals the 49. And again, those two numbers make 100%. So you are summing them vertically. Whereas when you're looking here at the horizontal analysis, you are not summing vertically. If you add these up, what's our total? You notice we don't have, it doesn't total this 7.884 like you saw in the previous one. Okay, so you don't do, when you're using horizontal analysis, you're not summing them horizontally, okay? All right, as another example, right? Now, we started out with 6,000 and, in 2013, and now that in 2014, we're at 5,000. So that means we had a decrease of 1,000, right? And if we take the 1,000, and remember, it is a negative number, okay? and we divide it by the $6,000 as the base year, which is our 2013, we end up with 16.67%, but it's a negative 16.67% because it was a decrease. And if you, as one more further example, and there's a reason why I'm going through the further example, because it's showing here with the cash, I showed you what an increase looked like, and this is what a decrease looked like when I showed you the accounts receivable. But now notice for the merchandise inventory, okay, I started out with 4,000 and it increased to 9,000, which was an increase of 5,000, so that's the amount. But notice that I'm also, for my base year, I have 4,000, okay? So when I divide 5,000 by 4,000, I end up with 125% increase. So you're able to have a greater than 100% on the chart, on the statement, right? Because it's the relationship for that account between, or for that line, that row, however you want to view it, between the previous year and this year. And these can get a lot more complicated in that, let's say we added 2015, okay, and we had figures here, okay. Well, now we wouldn't have just one set of increase and decrease. We would have another set of, when we can possibly have a third. I mean, think about it. Here we're talking about 2013 to 2014. We can have a 2013 in comparison to 2015, and then we would have a 2014 in comparison to 2015. Okay, so it all depends upon what you want to, analyze and what you want to see. Okay, and the amount of information and data that you're working with. Okay, but the bottom line is that for the horizontal analysis, again, you're not summing them up and down the page. Okay, you're not adding up your percentages this way. Okay, the percentages are unique and individual to that particular line. Okay, and the amount is just the difference between what it is that you're comparing, and you're always keeping a base. Right? So if you it just popped into my head because I said the word base. In the textbook, you will see when it comes to these analysis, you'll see off on the side, it'll talk about the portion, the base, and the rate. That concept that we discussed way back in the earlier chapters, okay? And I had said way back then that I don't like using, or I don't like learning via this method, okay? Because of things change. How do you, in one circumstance a base could be this, but in another circumstance the base is something else, and therefore you're constantly memorizing this information again and again and again. Whereas if you just understand the concept, okay, and the concept being, in this case here, this is the base figure that I'm going to be using. Okay, I'm going to use 2013. Oops, sorry about that. I'm going to be using, come on. All right, I have to get the pen. All right, good. Now I get my eraser. There we go. I have to set my base year, okay, that I'm going to use in order to calculate my percentage, okay, and that's what is making the difference between the two, right? You kind of always go from a previous year to the most current year. You really never go from the current year back. You don't ever do that, okay? That's not helpful information. That's backward looking, okay? We want forward looking information, okay? So I hope that was pretty clear, okay? And as you scan down through here, I mean, again, look at the difference between your assets and liabilities, okay? Right. Notice that my assets do equal my total liabilities and equity, all right, here. But when I'm doing my analysis, the difference here is $4,000. Why? Because I had a $4,000 increase here, right? And that 4,000 divided by the 51,000 is 7.84% of an increase. Okay. Remember, it's not the sum of these numbers. Okay. All right. Hopefully you had gotten that. This is a horizontal analysis. It is different. It's than the vertical analysis, even though you're talking about going even though the information is presented vertically, the concept, is very, very different. You notice that, and use the, in the back of your head, think of the term horizontal and what does that mean? And as you can see, we're working across the page, okay? Whereas in the vertical analysis, okay, we were more concerned with working up and down the page, okay, with the numbers within its own realm. Now, it didn't mean that we can't expand this this statement in order to include, the difference between this figure and this figure, so it's more readily available and more readily apparent. And the same with the amounts. Okay, I mean, we can have additional columns. The difference in amount, and I can have a difference in a percentage column. Okay, and have those percentages. I would have the 5,000 here. I'm sorry, 4,000 here, and that 3.66 here. Right? It all depends upon what you want to see on the statement. So it's kind of hard to talk about this because it is so nebulous. But the base, I think I've presented the base concept for this. And as you just see, you do more problems and you see more of them. And again, you're going to see this, in financial accounting and in managerial accounting, and those who are taking, who are going to be accountants or in the finance curriculum, you'll definitely see this in the intermediate accounting. Okay, it goes into a lot of in-depth study there. So, but for now, just understand the concepts. Don't be so concerned about how to put together the balance sheet, but do try to, understand where the numbers are coming and going. And like I said, we will have homework problems so that you'll, have to work through them. It'll be tedious because it's a lot of numbers, but, doing it again and again and again, the repetition will solidify in your mind the concept so that you don't have to really think that much about it in order to be able to understand the difference between the two and why you're using that information. All right, so with that said, I'm going to pause here and go into the next video, which should deal with trend analysis, and then we'll move into ratio analysis after that.